because it has to be. It's out of necessity that it is. But there were just a series of issues and complications with that particular location, the activities going on inside, as well as some of the individuals involved. And so because of that, we did start the investigation. We sought out federal assistance, and of course, yesterday was the net result of the investigation so far. Certainly not over, but certainly we're off to a good start.
Does a facility like that attract malfeasance because it's close to the freeway, and maybe some of that originates from people who are not from here because they just come here because it's easy to access?
I think a little bit of both. I think you've got this venue of commerce, the interstates right outside the intersection. I think you have the low cost of the rooms themselves. You have just a lot of different things that if you want anonymity, certainly that's the kind of place that you can go and conduct your business. I'm not going to tell you that some of it wasn't local or wasn't anchored here locally, but certainly that's part of the nexus, understanding the commerce and the transient nature of the crime being conducted there, and what part did our local folks have.
Well, and you anticipate where I was going next. That is to say, what is the responsibility of someone who runs a facility like that to know what sort of illegal activity might be going on amongst those people to whom they rent rooms?
Well, I think that's just it. We ask you to follow the rules and follow the laws and to be responsible business owners and landowners. And so that means that we ask that you, and certainly the law supports it, that you're going to follow inspection laws, code laws, and certainly statutory requirements when it comes to criminal as well as civil activities that you're up to.
All right. So as you go forward, you expect you're going to be watching that place further.
That and a number of other places as well.
Okay. Fair enough. You know, the original intent for our discussion today was another story that's been in the news this week, and that has been, I suppose, what you'd call home invasions, right? I mean, folks whose homes have been robbed or at least broken into, and what really amps up the nervousness about this is folks were home when this was happening.
That's right. I think that adds an added layer of drama, but also realism. You know, we watch this stuff on TV. We hear about it on the news, but it's certainly not supposed to be in our own backyard.
Yeah.
I think the added element of this is that it's in an area that we just normally don't have this kind of activity. And so, rightly so, folks are concerned. But more importantly, and I think this is what we're really glad to see, there's a lot of activism involved around this incident.
Neighbors
start talking, and that's one reason why I brought Officer Chris Rabbit here today, part of that crime prevention unit, because they're on the front end out to support these folks in our community in terms of educating them on what they can do, how we can effectively communicate, and then finally sticking with that program that we are continually putting out there, which is if you see something, say something. Don't worry about not bothering the police. Call 911. It's there for a reason.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting because folks might say, I don't know if this is legitimate enough to make the call. You're saying do it.
I'm saying do it.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk more about that in just a minute on WBCK 814. WBCK, Chief Jim Blockers here, and Officer Chris Rabbit, Battle Creek Police. We've been talking about these south-of-town home invasions recently, and the Chief mentioned a moment ago that neighbors tend to get together and talk. This is probably a good thing, right, Officer?
Yes, that's what we're trying to encourage through our crime prevention program. You know, it depends on the cooperation between the police and the community to really make an effect on these burglaries and this property crime that we're seeing. You know, we have some simple suggestions that people can do to increase the security of their own property and also watch out for their neighbors at the same time.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, one thing we try to encourage is what we call natural surveillance. And what that is we want people to have the opportunity to see what's going on out in the street from inside their home, and also for people traveling down the roadway, traveling down the sidewalk, to see onto your property and make sure hey, there's not somebody hiding in the bushes there. There's not some activity that shouldn't be going on.
In essence, that old neighborhood watch.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Part of what you can do with that, some simple landscaping. Everyone's out now cleaning up leaves and getting ready for the winter. While you're doing that, take a look at your trees and your bushes, especially up against the house. If you've got trees where the branches hang, we suggest about 6 feet. Anything that hangs below 6 feet, you want to trim those up.
Oh.
And any bushes that you have, you want to trim those down to about 3 feet. So that gives you that 3-foot window so that you can see out, the public can see in, and see that no one's lurking on your property. Along with that, we like to stress the factor of lighting. I know some of the burglaries that have occurred on the south side of town, the lighting hasn't been that great. It's kind of a rural area, and so the lighting isn't accentuated there.
So an outside light that is on regularly will deter someone. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, and I always suggest the motion lights.
Yes, right, because they appear to be off, and when there's motion, they come on.
Yep, and the placement of the motion lights, you want to cast that light to make a large shadow for everyone to see of whoever's coming up the driveway, coming up the side yard, in your backyard, whichever it may be, but you want them to be exposed.
Right. What about lights inside that go on and off on a regular basis? If someone looks at a home and sees a light on, is that a deterrent?
I would say it is, and especially now that we're getting into the holidays, you have people traveling and being gone for extended periods of time. You want to try and get a timed light in your house and show at least some activity.
Okay.
So,
all right. What else are good suggestions here?
Well, another thing we like to talk about is what we call target hardening. It sounds aggressive. It's not throwing up a 6-foot barbed wire fence, but there are some things that you can do to make your house harder to get into.
Okay.
There's some simple principles to target hardening that we try to encourage. We want to delay the offender. The longer it takes them to get in your house, the better. The more likely they are to be observed. We want to deter them by, if they're walking down the street and they look at your house and, hey, it looks like that's pretty secure. I'm pretty exposed here. Neighbors are going to see me. I'll move on. I bet I can find a better house. And we want to deny them. We want to actually stop them from gaining access. In a perfect world, that would be great to just have 100% security. But we're not. If someone wants in, you just can't stop it. But what we want to do is extend that period of time that they're exposed.
We've heard that notion before, and maybe it more so related to cars, but if it takes them longer to get what they want, they might not want to attempt it. Yep. Is that the premise there?
And that's where your neighbors and the community come into play. If someone's exposed, someone's creating a ruckus, and your neighbors are watching out for you and you're watching out for them, then we get those calls and we can catch these people in the act.
All right, and we'll talk more about this in just a minute on WBCK 820. 23 WBCK. We're talking with Officer Chris Rabbit today, Battle Creek Police, about how to make your home less appealing to burglars. So we talked a little bit about the outside and some of the more obvious things like better locks and things of that nature, but there are some other things we can talk about that maybe we don't think about too much. Signals that we're gone.
That's correct, Richard. And especially coming into the holiday season, there's a lot of indicators that are out there. Luckily we haven't had snow yet, but that day is coming soon. And
stop that talk.
With the snow, if you're going to be away, like I said, for the holidays, make sure you have whether it's a company or a neighbor who's going to plow out your driveway or clear your sidewalk, so it shows that someone's there. Because burglars, they'll ride right down the street and look for that house that doesn't look like anyone's there, and there's no footprints in the snow. And
oh my gosh, that's like putting a sign out front that says "Rob me."
Yeah,
it's just the snow on the driveway untouched.
And another scary thing is people are already starting their Christmas shopping. And with that, we see a lot of deliveries coming in, packages on the front porch. I saw a thing the other day of some people that were actually following a UPS truck and grabbing packages off the porch after the UPS truck cleared out.
Oh my gosh.
Again, that comes down to, neighbors watching out. You see that UPS truck come through, keep watch for a couple minutes and just see if anybody pulls in behind it.
Wow.
Along with the snow plowing or the snow removal, having someone pick up your mail or stopping your mail at the post office.
It's easy to do, too. You can do that online now.
Yeah, that's
Set
correct.
it up and they stop it and start it up again.
Same thing with the paper delivery. With Christmas and with the big high dollar gifts, whether it's a big screen or a brand new Xbox, don't put that giant box with the Sony 65-inch TV plastered all over the side on the sidewalk waiting for the garbage to pick it up.
Oh my.
Take a box cutter, break it down, fold it, turn it in sideways, or, take it down to the Kellogg's factory. They've got the cardboard recycling containers down there.
Nice.
Do it yourself, but just don't put that out there. It's just a giant beacon for burglars, and
Wow.
they'll start watching your property. And the same with property you have inside your house. Don't leave your laptops, your iPads, all these things sitting clearly visible inside the window, because there are burglars that will come up and take a peek in, and if there's nothing appealing to them, they might move on. If there is something, then they'll see how they can get in.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, just look right in the windows. That's pretty bold, especially if you're not sure somebody's there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You talked about staying in touch and staying in touch with your neighbors. Technology makes that easier now, doesn't it?
That's correct. We actually, there's a new online program that we're seeing in Battle Creek now that is actually, there's several communities nationwide, or a number of communities nationwide. It's called nextdoor.com, and it's operated independently of the police department. You can get onto that website, enter in your information, neighborhood you live in, and you can see the criminal activity and neighbors' observations, things that they've entered, right there on that website.
Wow.
What we found is with Nextdoor.com, it's essentially much like a Facebook for neighborhoods,
Oh, yeah.
where neighbors are talking to one another. And more importantly, we can talk to you, you can talk back to us, the police department. And we use Nextdoor.com not only to share broad announcements, much like what's been going on, but we can also target the neighborhoods. So Nextdoor.com, you can identify yourself within an association or a neighborhood, so within a set geographic area. And so that's helpful to us, that if we want to send that particular area a message, or that area wants to talk to us, we can do so on that basis. And it allows for that specific issue to be addressed within those neighborhoods. So over 700 people have been involved. I know Neighborhoods Incorporated has been working with us in terms of sponsoring, getting the word out. And I would encourage listeners, if you haven't done so, take a moment, look at Nextdoor.com, and if it's something that you think you'd want to get involved in, it's a wonderful tool. And it also comes with a smartphone app as well.
So you can access it that way, like you would Facebook. You can look at what's being posted right on your phone.
That's right.
Wait to get in front of the computer.
Yes.
All right, nicely done. So before you go, you actually offer the opportunity to have police come to the home and give you some opinions about how safe your home appears to be from burglars, right?
That's correct. We, as the Crime Prevention Unit, we consist of 8 officers, 1 sergeant, and 1 lieutenant, and we will actually come to your property, analyze the property, type up a report for you, and we'll walk around and give you all the suggestions we have to improve your security.
Wow, how do you set that up?
You can contact us through the Facebook page for BCPD, or you can also call the administrative line at 269-966-3375, and just tell them you're interested in a crime prevention survey.
All right. And how about these incidents south of town now, Chief? Have you, you feel we're close to closing that case?
I think we are.
Okay.
We have already identified a series of suspects, and there's some added legal complexities with the folks involved, involving multiple jurisdictions and burden of proof issues. There's always that ideal that we have to work in the environment that we work in, where there's a factual guilt, everything that we know happened, and everything that did happen, versus legal guilt that's proven it. And so that's the challenge. That's the burden of proof that we're often stuck with. But again, I think many of these instances we have been out in full force, 24/7, really almost in the last 10 to 12 days. We have put just about everything we can on this effort, and I think what we've seen is the problem has been considerably abated because they know we're on them, and that's helpful.
All right. Well, we appreciate all the information. Thanks to the both of you.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
8:30.